episode of Porch Talk. This is episode 37 and our Week 10 preview. Guys, before we get started in this interview, I want to say that Jamar is out tonight. So we got Aaron from Tailgate Talk to join us. So thank you, Aaron, for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Tonight, start off our interviews with Holston head coach Chris Akers and Holston star player Luke Greene. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you all coming on. I know the playoffs are getting ready to start here in a few weeks, so you got a busy week this week with a big game. To start this interview off, we're going to go to you first, Luke. Just kind of give you an opportunity to tell us about when you first fell in love with the sport, and then if you had any players that you looked up to, and that can be local players or professional.
I'd say probably since I could walk, watching college football and NFL with my dad every Saturday and Sunday. And one Christmas, I remember he got me this black Schutt helmet and some shoulder pads, and we'd just go in the living room, and he let me tee off on them. So shout out to my dad for letting me get that out, and that's where it just kind of was kicked off, and then I fell in love ever since and have played from kindergarten, or actually I think it was pre-K to now.
Good start. I try to get my little boy in here and start some tackling drills. He's only 3. I think it turns into wrestling more than it does actually form tackling. Coach, we want to shoot it to you. For the people that don't know about you, just a very brief summary about your coaching career and getting there at Holston.
Yeah, so I've been coaching at some capacity since 2002. I started off when I was in college at Radford University, at Radford High School, was just a volunteer, and once I graduated school, I went to GW Danville for 10 years. I was at William Fleming as an assistant coach for 1 year, and I've been the head coach at Rural Retreat, Gate City, Fort Chiswell, and now Holston High School.
I mean, Coach, got a big game coming up this weekend and everything, and so playoffs in this Region 1D, it looks like it's going to be moving around a lot depending on what all goes on these next few weeks or the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of a situation where everybody's in the same boat. We feel like that all the top 8 teams, I think you could put possibly 10 teams that could possibly have a chance at winning it. I don't think anybody's, Cove's obviously they're undefeated and they're playing good football, but I just think that everybody else is in the race, and it's going to come down to when the playoffs start, who's playing the best football and who's the healthiest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, even with Rye Cove, fantastic team, but even last week they got tested. That was a close game. Going into the year, you guys, you were picked, I think, near the bottom of the Hogo, if I'm not mistaken. Expectations from the outside, anyway. But I know that you all probably had a lot of confidence with what you had in the locker room there. So just in the off season, how did you guys get prepared for this year? Luke, we'll go to you first. Just off season prep.
We just hit the weight room pretty hard. I think we all kind of, as a senior, you kind of got a feel in a role somewhere, and we have about 8 or 9 that knew that we had to fill in and kind of pick up our weightlifting. So we all took it hard, and then we started running more, and then you kind of just kept on progressing and progressing every day. I think Coach Akers made it harder for us, which is good. It kind of has molded us into the team that we have became now. So I just think that every senior really on this team has just stepped up, like everybody. I don't think there's one person that really has skipped out.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of seniors that have played meaningful football games for 3, some of them 4 years now, and it makes a difference. And the whole weightlifting thing is something everybody's doing. I think that some people just go through the motions in the weight room, and then other people are really getting after it. And one of the Luke's one of the ring leaders of it. I'm so proud of the way that he really picked his game up from last year. He was an excellent football player last year, but he even got better this year. And I think a lot of it was because of the weight room. I mean, you can see it in his body. And all it takes is a few kids like that. Kids see them. They're working hard in the weight room. Usually the other ones follow along with them. I'm a big proponent of getting these kids in the best possible shape that they can to play the game. Obviously you have to be in great shape to play, but you also have to be physically ready to take the pounding that it's going to take for a 10-game season.
I guess weightlifting kind of goes into this next question a little bit too, but culture. I'm a big culture guy. I really like to listen to coaches and their different perspective on how they kind of instill culture in their programs. So, coach, just on that note, what's your culture that you're trying to build there, and how do you instill it? And then Luke, after him, just give you an opportunity to talk about the coaching staff there with Coach Akers and the supporting cast.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We may not have that many kids. We got 27 kids on the football team, but almost every one of our kids showed up to summer workouts. If they didn't show up to summer workouts, we knew where they were. They were accounted for. So I think that plays a big part in it. I think that we've gotten to the point, and I don't think it has anything to do with me or my staff, but we've kind of weeded out the kids that, that just that can't take it or can't make it. They know that it's going to be tough in our program and it's demanding. And, if they miss practices, they don't play. And, it's hard doing that. It's a fine line that we walk, but eventually they get the hint. And I think that we got kids that want to play and are committed in our program.
Being in that program right now, what do you think about, just give you an opportunity to talk about coach and the supporting cast around him that y'all have?
Yeah, I mean, we got a really good coaching staff, I feel like, that creates a good environment, a good work environment for us. We got to be able to come every day ready to work. And I think everything, something that's been around football a long time, and Holston football especially, is you got to be physical, more physical than the other team. And that's something that Coach Akers and Coach Zell and Coach Harlow really do preach. And you really gotta be physical. So that's something that we kind of try to build off as a team. And I mean, our coach leads that pretty well, even before games, right before prayer. I mean, he gives us a great pep that I know I do take to heart. It really does help having a good coach like that will uplift and give you the right stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to touch up on, this talking about the weight room and how the kids, have prepared and went in there and talking about Luke and stuff. I mean, if you saw some other players and like Luke himself from last season to this season, how they've upped their leadership roles and stuff is, that making a difference as well.
Yeah, I'll tell anybody this. And I tell our kids at the beginning of the year, we're only as good as our seniors. You look at most of these teams that are winning games, and they got a lot of seniors that are playing. We got 9 seniors, and all of them play. So I think that makes a big difference in winning and losing. And if you don't have that kind of leadership, a coach can only do so much, but coaches can't play. And you got to have that leadership from the kids as well. And I think we have that with our seniors.
I was going to ask you about the roster in general. Questions down, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up because we're already on the topic. The rushing attack this year has been great. I think you see a lot of teams around here. It's been airing it out, but your all's rushing attack has been one of the best in Southwest Virginia with Luke and Colton. I think and Hayden stepping up in there. So just, I guess, kind of on that same note, talking about seniors, just some of the leaders on the team. What have they meant this year for the success of the team? I mean, you've had injuries and stuff happen here and there, have players step up in big moments. So just speak on the leaders a little bit there. And Luke, just whenever it gets to you, just opportunity for you to shout out any of your teammates that you have.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, our backfield is most of those guys have been three-year starters, and it makes a difference. We have a 3-year starter at quarterback, which is, it's priceless. It's worth everything when you have a kid that's played for 3 years and knows how to command the offense and can control the game. And I think every one of our backs were really good last year, but again, they've just gotten bigger, they've gotten stronger, they've gotten a year more experience, and they flat run hard. I mean, when our kids, and I think this is all of our kids, and we talk about it all the time, and our offensive coordinator preaches to them. Even when we have plays that are not going well, we got to get positive yards. We don't want to be behind the sticks, and I think all of our kids aren't scared to put their head down and just fight for that extra yard.
Just shout out to any of the teammates that you have.
Yeah, I mean, we have three seniors and one junior, and that completes your four. You got Noah, senior, Colton, senior, me, senior, and then Colin, junior, that's stepped up in both big roles on defense and offense. And, our line, we may not be the biggest, but I know that we got kids that will get after it, and I'm really glad that I have those people by my side and that I can run behind. Big shout out to Gabe Foster and Jolon Norman for the pools and all that, trying just cutting off of their backs and stuff. That they really do help us, and Noah for rolling up in the hole. And I mean, we all do it together as a team. We really don't try to focus on, who's doing better. If you're the guy that, like Coach says, we're not going to have one hot hand. If you're rolling that night, we're going to roll with you. So that's something that we kind of piggyback off of every game.
We're going to talk about the season so far up to this point. You all are, if I'm not mistaken, 7-1, number 2 in Region 1D, playing great ball. Like I said, exceeding the expectations of what the Bristol paper and some of these news outlets out this way have put y'all before the season. Had some big wins along the way. Patrick Henry, one of them. I think that's a pretty important one to you guys. Johnson County last week. The only loss we have is Honaker. So just, I'm going to bounce it to both of you, but so far this season, just, Coach, how have you seen your team grow? And if you want to just touch on some of those games along the way that you might have seen some of the growth in.
Yeah, I mean, last season we were right there in every game that we played for the most part, besides Johnson County, and we knew we keep preaching to them that we got to find a way to win big games. We were winning the games that we were supposed to win last year, but we never could beat those teams that nobody gave us a chance on. And a lot of it is that I tell our kids, and I downplay it. I know we got a pretty decent football team at the end of the day, but we're never gonna boast about what we do, because at the end of the day, you got to prove it on Friday night, and that's the whole deal. And you can talk all you want to, but until you put those pads on and then you prove it, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm proud of where we are. Obviously, um, we got to take this thing minute by minute, day by day. Right now, I mean, we got a tough stretch coming up with Rural Retreat, Chilhowie, and then whoever we're going to play in the playoffs, which we know is not going to be easy. So we're just focusing on day by day, but we have progressively gotten better, I think, week by week. Obviously, we didn't play very well against Honaker, and they're talented too. A lot of people um, talk about Honaker being down this year, and that's not the case. They still got athletes, they still got players, and we didn't play our best game, but a lot of that was of them too. They're good, so it's going to be a tough stretch. Friday night against Rural Retreat, they probably have one of the best teams that we've seen on film. They're well coached. They do a lot of good things. They got athletes all over the field, and they remind me a lot of us. So it's going to be a tough stretch um, down towards the end of the season. But I think we do a pretty good job of keeping our kids focused and just worrying about what's happening today instead of looking forward.
Just some of your favorite moments of the season so far, and kind of the same question. How, from a player standpoint, how do you think you guys have grown?
I think that each person's kind of stepped up in their own way, but there's been more so seniors stepped up, like and for Noah, and kind of led us to win that game. I mean, he really was that big key factor in the win of the game. And I'd say, if I had to say, one of my favorite moments was probably when we came in and we beat Johnson County, because I know even some of our home crowd didn't believe in us. I heard people talking. I mean, like, it felt so good beating somebody that you weren't supposed to. And I'll have to give credit to my dad for this. I mean, he says, when you look at Holston and you don't know much about us or our culture, or how tight knit we are as a team, or basically to our community, we only have 27 people. And most of the time, the teams that we play are bigger than us. They look stronger. I wouldn't say faster, but stronger than us. I mean, like if you don't know much about us, it's pretty easy to pick that other team. And I think that's something that's helped us this year is when people vote against us. I mean, it just lights add fuel to our fire, and then we just feed off of it. I mean, I really, really don't mind when people underestimate us. I kind of like being that underdog rather than being kind of the big dog. So yeah, I mean, just saying.
Hey, how do each one of you feel about this win that you just got over Johnson County, leading
Um,
into the remainder of the next two games? How big is that going to be preparing you guys for these next two games and closing out this regular season?
I mean, I felt like it was big, and I'm still, if I'm being honest, still a little worried that we kind of may be getting too big headed. But I really am proud that we won. That was really a big confidence booster, and I had a guy
Absolutely.
come up to me and say, um, that was one of the greatest wins in Holston's history. So when you hear that, I mean, that really's got to mean something. We'll be remembered for that. That one will never go unforgotten. I don't think. I mean, you get a 1A Virginia team beating a 3A Tennessee school. That's pretty big, man.
Yeah, it's huge.
It is. It was a big boost for our team.
Yeah, I think that's the type of win that, I know you said you worried about getting big head and stuff like that, but I think when it comes down to it and playing real retreat and you might have a moment of adversity or whatever, you can kind of look back at that and know that, we deserve to be here. And I think that can
Yeah.
kind of propel you for the rest of the year.
Sometimes I don't feel like people give us credit for,
Mhm.
or not credit, or that we deserve to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of. So that's another thing that kind of makes you feel good is when people don't think that you should deserve to be there, but you make it there.
Oh, definitely. And I think that, even the community can rally around that too. Especially winning helps that, of course. But,
Oh yeah.
kind of give both of you an opportunity just to talk about the community that you have there. Coach, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, we have a real tight knit community at Holston, and they support our football program. They support all of our sports programs, and I think it takes a lot of people to be successful in anything that you do. And we have obviously the community, but our administration is good too. Mr. Long and Mr. Blackburn, they're sports guys, and they know what we need and what it takes in order for us to be successful. And they're very supportive of us as well. And we talk about community, and I think parents are big into this too. But we coach our kids really hard. We do. We coach our kids really hard, and I think the parents allow us to do it, and I think the kids allow us to do it. So it's a group effort in order to be successful.
Just touch on the community there that y'all have.
The community is like nothing I've seen before. I mean, I never feel like any time that we're getting ready to run out to our inner Sandman that it's like it's empty. I always feel like there's always a big supportive crowd, and that really does help all of us kids when we see our parents, our friends, any other connection that you have with the person when they're there cheering you on. Not once, even when we've been down in past situations, not once has our crowd turned their back on us. They're always behind us. They're always there to support us, and I I think that another thing to touch on was the flood that hit our community. I mean, it was really really bad. People went out with power and food for days. Couldn't shower or anything, and then and unfortunately I wasn't able to help, but some of our kids had went down, and shout out to them for this, like just coming down, and Coach Akers and Coach Tweed went down and helped people out that needed help. And like Noah's mom said, they said, since you helped us, we're going to come out and support y'all. And that really meant something to all of us. That was really a heartfelt moment.
Yeah, I think, especially in single A ball, it's just the communities and teams are just so close knit. It's like all in one. Not saying that it's not like that in some of the higher classifications, but it just seems a little more personal. I think with some of the single A communities. Talk a little bit about this upcoming game, Thrill Retreat. I know that you guys don't want to give away too much, but just some keys to the game because I know the last four, if what I researched was right, had all been close. I think y'all got the best of them the last 4 times, but it's still been close games. So I'll shoot to you first, Coach. Just some keys to the game this Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the best football team we played so far. They're physical. They have 5 or 6 skilled guys that can score at any time. They put you in a lot of different formations. They force you to line up. They're well coached. They play defense well, and I mean they'll hit you. I mean, I was the head coach at Rural Retreat for 2 years. I know those kids, and they have a lot of the same characteristics our kids do. They're hard nosed. They're gritty. They play hard, and you're gonna have to beat them. And we look at their record and say, well, we're number 2 in the region, but at the end of the day, they've lost to George Wythe, Grayson County, and Lebanon. Those are 3 really good football teams. Who knows? I'm assuming that George Wythe or Grayson's probably going to come out as regional champions in Region C. So in all those games, if I'm not mistaken, they either had a lead or they're really close to having a lead. They jumped out to a 14-point lead against George Wythe, and then they had a 20-19 lead against Lebanon late in the game. Grayson was also close as well. I don't know if they had the lead. I can't remember, but they played them all tight, and and that's what I told our kids. They're battle tested as well. They're battle tested. They're not going to be scared to play. It's going to be down at their place. And like you said, the last 4 years, it's just been one more play, and that's all it's been. So we found a way to squeak out and beat them the last 4 years, and they want to beat us, and we know that, and it's going to take our best game on Friday night.
Your standpoint, what are some keys going into this game?
We know that we gotta stay on schedule and run our stuff and just be our regular selves. I don't think that we can get too caught up in who's going to win or whatnot. We just got to play to the whistle, and then at the end, when that scoreboard signs off, if we win or lose, we still got to be happy without that result. And like Coach Akers says, that's one of those games that if it's just going to come down whoever made the 1 or 2 big plays, to contribute to that win. That's one of those games, and from a player's standpoint, from those past 3 years, my freshman year, we barely beat them. Sophomore year, we barely beat them, and then junior year, I mean, it was a 1 point difference, and I mean, it's just always a tough fought game, and it's respectable because most of us kids we know all those guys down there, and they know all of us because we talk at track meets and whatnot. So I mean, it's going to be definitely a tough game, and I know both sides are excited, and we do know that they want to beat us, but we want to beat them as well. So it's going to be an important game, and I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it might be one of the games of the week.
Anything about the game?
Well, I like what Coach said that they've got to beat Rural Retreat, but Rural Retreat's got to beat you guys too. So, and I really feel confident. I mean, I watched you guys at Hurley. It's the first time I'd watched you this year play, and I was really impressed with your team and how quick off the ball you guys are, and just, man, y'all got speed like crazy and everything. But like you said, you got to beat them, but they've got to beat you too, Coach.
Yeah, and and Luke touched on it. Our offensive line at the beginning of the year was everybody was throwing up question marks. We lost some seniors, and what are you going to do, Coach? And I'm so proud of those guys. They work their tails off, and we got a guard that weighs 160 pounds, and we're very undersized. But I love watching those guys just get after it. I do. And, this week they got some of the same guys. They got those gritty guys up front. So it should be interesting what happens. And at the end of the day, at every level, it's one up front. A lot of people don't pay attention to it because, those guys aren't the ones that's carrying the rock and scoring the touchdowns. But that's where it's won. But I like the way that we played so far up front and just being gritty and hard nosed and tough.
Sometimes I'd rather have that smaller guy that's a little quicker. A lot of times that wins the battle for you.
Yeah, and that's one thing we hang our hats on. We don't have the biggest guys, but we don't have anybody that plays up front, and we don't have anybody on the field that can't run. And that's one of my biggest concerns I always say, if you're not able to run, then you're not able to play. And I think that's true. I mean, people, that's the biggest part of the game is movement.
Absolutely.
Big guy that can't move, he really doesn't interest me that much. I want a guy that can move and do some things.
Yeah, absolutely. Space takers. That's what I call them.
Yep.
And definitely, and I think that your all style of play translates well to the postseason. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been on here before talking about how I like the air raid with Coach Wicks over here in Honaker, and Lebanon's doing it now. It's fun to watch, but it seems like that style of play that y'all have, and same Coach Padgett's got style over there too. It translates very well in the postseason. I just got a few more questions for you guys. So more that's usually on here kind of asks some, I won't say off the wall questions, but just some outside of football in some areas. But I'm going to ask you all, or even Luke, I guess, in particular, in this question, traditions that you have as an individual, and that could, or it could be like superstitions going into a game, and then also traditions, like if you all have any, like I think you mentioned Aaron Sandman, but if y'all have anything else special.
I really kind of, talk to my family before the game. That really helps me, because they support and love me. And then I go out and I talk to almost every player that's getting ready to play. And, I got a lot of friends on the team, which helps. That's another thing that we come in as a tight-knit team. Sometimes we'll just sit up in the locker room before that 30 minutes or 20 minutes right before we're getting ready to go outside and warm up, just talk about what we need to do and hypes ourselves up. And there's one tradition that we all love. It's our prayer that Coach Akers has introduced to the team. And that really gets us going. So we say it after every practice, and we say it before every game, and then after every game. And it's pretty loud to hear. It's a great prayer. So that's one of the traditions that we love. And then Inner Sandman, of course, but I think that the prayer is one of our things that we.
Awesome. Coach, I know usually it seems to be more like a player thing with superstitions and stuff. I know we all kind of had our own thing, but as a coach, do you have anything day before the game or the day of the game?
No, I've seen guys that wear the same socks or shirt or underwear or whatever. If they win, and I just believe that at the end of the day that Friday is just, it's just the show, and you do Monday through Thursday is where you win. And I just have faith that we've done all we can. And I tell our kids that all the time. And as coaches, we want to make sure that our kids are as prepared as they possibly can. We don't want to lose the game because we weren't prepared. And the kids know this. It is as long as they go out there and we've had a good week of practice and we've done everything we can do, and we still don't win, then that's just part of the game. You're just not good enough. They're better than you, and we can live with that. But when you don't put in the time and the effort and you lose, that's when it hurts as a coach. When you feel like that you've let those kids down and not having prepared. But as far as superstition, no, I'm not into anything. And the Cavalier prayer that we do, I got that from a guy that at Fort Chisel that did it, and he got it from University of Nebraska. And we do it after we do it, and we run at the end of practice. So okay, because so it's kind of mumbled and everybody's out of breath and tired, and it's not much. And then on Friday nights, I mean, we take our weight room, we put the chairs out where the kids sit, and you can hear it echo off the wall. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, you said it was the Husker prayer, right? You said.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I remember when I played in 2014, and I had it on my little set of music. Like I guess it was some kind of audio file of the Husker prayer, and I did not even think of that until you just said it. I couldn't even tell you two or three of the words in it, but I do remember that being very motivational. So,
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Every now and then, I sometimes wonder if I can remember it because it's pretty long, and well, I've been doing it so long now that I think I got it down. I only messed it up once this year, didn't I, Luke? Y'all called me
Yeah,
out on it, so it
thanks,
wasn't
sir.
game day, but I did it on
It-
practice.
yeah,
Well, it's a good thing it wasn't on game day.
It wouldn't have mattered on game day. I just told him to go on out there.
that's it. Um,
Hey, well, you
yeah.
gotta ask at least J Mars. One of his favorite questions is about like if you was going into a UFC fight,
Yeah.
what would be your music? He loves that question.
Yeah, that's it's
What would
two-part
be your intro
question.
music?
Yeah, it's two-part question. Really, it's like pregame music. What do you listen to? And then yeah, Jay Moore asks every week, and it kind of stumps almost everybody. As a UFC fighter, what would be your walkout song?
If I had to go on a walkout, it'd probably be McGregor's walkout song, where he's got the foggy dew, and then it translates into the notorious Biggie
Yeah, yeah,
song. I think it is. He came out to it against Jose Aldo. I think
yeah, yeah.
I really like that. And then before pregame, what we listened to, we got a bunch of stuff that we listen to. Our main rock band is Metallica, and then we just got different rap artists that we listen to.
Yeah. Do you watch a little bit of UFC?
Yeah,
You do. So
J
yeah.
Mar would be so happy
I
with that,
know.
wouldn't he?
Yeah. This next question, I mean, I don't have many left. Also does this. He usually asks a top three from each of you. So the top three I was going to give you was the same one, but I'll go ahead and start with you, Luke. Your top three UFC fighters ever.
I'd go John Jones. What's the dude from Russia? Is it Islam?
Islam and Habib.
Islam.
Yeah,
Islam Habib.
yeah.
And then for number three, that's got to be tough. I kind of want to go with McGregor, but I also watched Chuck Norris fight too, so it'd be a toss up between those two.
I,
But definitely Islam and John Jones deserve that 1 and 2 spot. If I had to go for three, I'd say it's McGregor before he broke his leg, when he was really devoted.
okay, yeah. I mean, I like those answers.
Right.
Yeah, I think McGregor is definitely one of the most electrifying athletes ever, especially an individual athlete. Coach, is something he asks a lot of the coaches. Top three stadiums. I know you've been around football for a lot, so and that could be stadiums you played in or coached in. Your top three.
Uh, if I am going these high school stadiums,
I mean, it could be any. Um,
I'll just go with high school stadiums
yeah.
since we're on a high school podcast here. I'm going to say Holston High School is number one. I got to put it at number one, but I'll put it at number one for this reason. I think it's got the best seating as far as seeing a game. I think it's got the best scenery that you have. I mean, I don't like going to any game that you got a track or you got, something in front of it where you're back off the field. But at Holston, you're right up on the field. So I think that's pretty cool. And then I'd have to go with Mitchell Stadium as number two. It's where I played from Bluefield, and it was ranked number one USA Today for stadiums in the United States. It's still a nice venue there. And then I'd probably say Salem Stadium. I think Salem Stadium's probably got to be in the top three as well.
Yeah, all very solid choices. Aaron, do you have anything before I just have one more question here for Luke. But do you have anything, Aaron, before I send it to him?
I just want to say, good luck, guys, for the rest of your season. A spectacular season so far, and it looks like you're probably going to be around a 2 or 3 in your playoffs coming around to it the way we've got it figured up right now. So, a few things can happen otherwise, but I mean, from going for a team that nobody expected to even be in the title fight for your district, to be coming out of this thing probably at a 2 or 3 seed. That's spectacular. And I just want to say good luck to you and congratulations on the great season that you've had so far.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Luke, well, I mean, before I send it to you for the last question, kind of echo what Aaron said. Good luck going forward. Good luck this Friday. I love the story that's going on over there. I think to you all, it probably wasn't much of a surprise, but I think you're really showing everybody else the quality of team that you all have. And I mean, the playoffs are going to be fun. I mean, it's one. It don't matter. I mean, every single game is going to be a good game, and that's fun for a spectator like me and Aaron. Luke, final question. We ask this to everybody, all of our players anyway. Motivation that you carry out there with you when you play.
Just being physical and staying motivated. You always got to be. You can never be a downer out there. So I always try to carry that with me try to pick other guys up. Never focus on their at faults.
Great answer. And guys, thank you again. Sorry for keeping you long. I think that usually we keep it kind of short, but we definitely enjoy talking to you guys. Again, thank you and good luck this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're back again, and this is our Week 10 preview and picks. And as I've said before, we got Aaron from Tailgate Talk on here with us. And Aaron, are you ready to get into these picks?
Man, I'm ready. I've been dying for it to happen.
Heck yeah. Man, all we should have got K-Dog on here too. Man, we would have had a...
He's had enough this week, okay?
He's tired.
I've got him back in the doghouse.
Oh, okay. We'll keep him locked up. At least till Friday night, let him out.
Yeah, I'll let him out Friday, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Before we get started on this, just like I do every week, I want to mention that a lot of stats and stuff that at least I use is kind of direct from the Bristol paper and some other places like our stat guy, John Ward. He sends us some stuff sometimes. Also, I will mention imaginary game lines brought to you by the Southwest Virginia Sportsbook on some of the games. They only do, I think, up to 10, and I don't think all 10 are in our region, so I just kind of get which ones that are kind of relevant. It's a little fun thing that we do. But before we get started, I did want to mention some milestones real quick before we get into the preview and picks. Eastside's Kelton Hamilton and Gate City's Walker Hillman, both former guests on the show, both surpassed 1,000 rushing yards on the season last week. So congratulations to them. We will mention a few times during this episode some records being broken because there was quite a bit last week, score records anyway. But I wanted to go ahead and mention a special one because they're off this week. Caden Boyd from Lebanon, the game against Virginia High, I think you was at, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had 208 yards receiving, 21 catches. The 21 catches was our Virginia High, our VHSL state record. So congratulations to him. The previous record was held by Cassius Harris. I think I'm saying that right, from Tazewell.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations, Caden. Before I go on any further, Aaron, how was that watching him break that record Saturday?
Man, the kid was everywhere on the field. I mean, he probably had the biggest catches. I mean, in like down changing formations. He has a way. I mean, Baker is a kid that I watched all year too. That has the way he runs routes and everything, and everybody talks about that. But this kid can run some great routes, and he's got such good hands. I mean, he caught some balls and he was taking some pops on them, and he held on to them. He's
very impressive.
He's very special kid.
And I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't know if he's a senior. And I know Toby and Reese are both juniors.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Now, I'm not sure if it was him when we back on our podcast. Once we interviewed Coach Norris, did he transfer there from Honaker? Is he the one?
No. He may have at some point, but now the freshman running back he transferred from Honaker.
I think they had a receiver that did as well, and it may have been. I was thinking it was him. Yeah. And they said that he came there really. It was a basketball player, not much,
Yeah, and very well could have been.
Man, the way he has transitioned to the football field is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's been that way even for the past few years. Like players kind of bouncing back and forth between Lebanon and Honaker, which it's like that. You look at Richlands, Tazewell, Graham Bluefield. And you see that about everywhere. But yeah, Coach Norris has a special crew there of players, a great group going into next year. I mean, not many people have that kind of talent on offense in their whole coaching career, let alone, in the first year that he's there. Anyways, I want to also congratulate the head coach for Richlands, Ronnie Davis. We had Andrew on, had Colin. That was a huge moment for him, just getting the monkey off the back, and big for that program. I mean, I think that was 18, 19 games they were on a losing streak for.
Yep.
So congratulations, Coach Davis. And finally, this isn't a football one, but we cover high school basketball as well, boys and girls. And last year we had a very special athlete, in our area. Probably one of the best, if not the best, female basketball player in the state right now, and Emma McCamus. And she had a pretty special moment this week. I'm not big on volleyball as far as I don't know a lot about it, but I saw the Bristol paper put out that she is now the VHSL all-time kills leader with 2,157.
Stole it from my Gate City girl, man.
Oh, did she? So
yeah, she sure did.
Yeah, she's been a special player. I'm hoping. I think we almost had her and I think her brother on, and even her dad last year during basketball season. But things just kind of got crazy with our work schedule, so we'll try to get them on this year. But she's a very special athlete all around. I mean, basketball, she's already broke, gosh, I don't know how many records, and I think she's well over 2,000 points. So, not football related, but can't just gloss over that. That's very special. Before we get into this week 10, man, I listened to your episode this morning. Great episode. Had me rolling the whole time. K-Dog, I mean, the whole crew, just great. I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of throw out to everybody your episode that you dropped, and kind of just some, not everything about just some hints about it to get people excited.
Yeah, well, we pulled a prank on our K-Dog there and everything, and so then he decided he had to spill some beans and stuff. And I mean, it is on a subject that, especially in this county, that has been talked about a lot, but a lot of people don't realize, funding and stuff and where it actually comes from for sports. It's more through your support, like through like your athletic department, your supporters, like your everything. It don't always come from the county itself, so he's aggravated me on that a lot, and I mean, he has fired up my chat box. I ain't gonna lie with this one. So if y'all ain't listened to it yet, go listen to it, and then I'll be looking forward to answering my inbox, because it has really opened up a can of worms. I ain't gonna lie.
It seems like every week y'all got something that, man, y'all's comment section is, it's lively. I mean, we've got several sports podcasts in Southwest Virginia. There's not one that has the battleground of, the comment section that you all have. So, and it's all, in good fun sometimes,
It is. I mean, I take pride in that, our YouTube channel. I mean, I guess where it's more, our podcast is audio, not video. I mean, it's not the best for us there, but I mean, like, everything else is good, like our Spotify, that's how more people listen to us and stuff. And then Facebook, is a big thing for us. It's just getting comments and stuff, and I like firing them up.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody that's listened to us, I mean, if you have listened to us in the past, you've seen Aaron already once. But definitely go check them out. Tailgate Talk with the Boys on Facebook, Spotify. I guess you're on almost everything, right? You're on Apple as well?
Yeah, we do Apple, Google, all the ones that we go through Buzzsprout, so it throws us out to all of them.
Awesome.
One download thing, so.
That works great. And yeah, definitely go listen to them, follow them on Facebook, share them to your friends. Some great guys. I think we're all just trying to do our part and trying to get some of these kids recognized. And I think that's special when you consider, sometimes, especially the single A level. I mean, we talk about double A as well, but I think the single A level sometimes gets overlooked when you look at across the board with, some of the news stations and stuff like that. And we won't even get on, the Bristol paper or anything this time. Or was it no, it wasn't Bristol, it was WCYB. We won't even get on that topic this time. So,
no.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll go ahead and start this out. We're going to start here first with Riverview, West Virginia, 6-2 at Eastside, 7-1. We don't have a line for this one, but now Eastside beat Riverview last year, 14-6, and good news for the Spartans because they still have Kelton Hamilton and Luke Trent, and they had a great game last year against Riverview. Luke had a great week this past week. He had 124 receiving yards, 85 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns. And I think I saw, as before we were getting on here, the other podcast out that way, Fresh Off the Clock, they do a Player of the Week, and he was also co-Player of the Week there. So, great week for him. I think that I've heard this on y'all's podcast as well as I've seen it on the paper. They're getting their quarterback back now. Eastside is. They're kind of working him back in.
Yeah, slowly working him in. They're starting him out. I mean, he hadn't took no hits or anything like that all year, and he's still been kind of gimpy with his leg. But I mean, from what we've been told, which Grant that's on our podcast, that's his nephew, and
Okay.
So like just over the past couple of weeks, he's losing his limp and everything's going good. I mean, they're ramping him up. He took about 15, 16 snaps last week, so I mean, we don't know where he's going to be if he, when he comes back. But
well, it's still good to have. I mean, even the chance that he could. You never know. Like, he might get out there. You never know. I mean, I pray nothing ever happens injury wise to any of the other players, but you never know like who could go down and who might have to step in, and to have somebody that, even if he's out there just to hand the ball off and stuff here and there, to have that experience still there, suited up to play. That's big.
Yeah, their quarterback's done a great job. I mean, getting thrown into the fire. I mean, unexpectedly, because he broke his leg like just days before the season started, And then this kid's thinking, he's the backup, coming into it, and then he's thrown into the fire. And he's done, as a freshman, I think he's done an excellent job leading this team. And but this guy has got experience, and that's just something that's just hard to just get overnight or just first few games. But I mean, like I said, we don't know where he's going to be, but he's going to be an option somewhere, and he's a dog on defense too, as at outside linebacker. So getting him back, especially around playoff time, is going to be really big for him, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's a few teams really that we'll get into as we go through this that are getting some of their pieces back. And I mean, I'll mention it probably several times this podcast, but I'm so excited for the playoffs and single A, because situations like this, you just never know. I mean, East Side really week one of the playoffs is going to be in a dogfight, just as probably any of them are. But in this game, I do have East Side winning. I think that Riverview is, they're ranked like top 5 or something in West Virginia in their classification, maybe.
Yep.
But I have East Side winning this one. I have them going 20.
I think it's going to be a dogfight. I mean, it's another game that East Side needs. I mean, that's going to help them postseason wise as well. Being in these kind of dogfights. I mean, especially when where they're playing so much youth, it's going to help them out. With it being at East Side, I'm probably going to go with East Side in this one, and I got it. I'll go 28-21 on this one.
I think that's I think that's a great score. 1 second here. I'm going to edit this part out, but I need to send this message back to Andrew. All right, so I'll edit that part out. I just had to send that back to him. All right, so next game we have Gate City, 5-3, at Y Central, 2-6. According to the Southwest Virginia Sportsbook, Gate City is a 21.5-point favorite in this game. Gate City is coming off of a slow start last week against Battle. They ended up pulling away at the end. I think this season has been, and you can definitely speak on this better than I can, Aaron, being Gate City's close to your heart there. Just from the outside looking in, it seems like Gate City has had a lot of really good moments this year, but there's not been a lot of games where they put a full game together yet. I mean, you look at second half of Battle, you look at the first half of Lee, I think maybe the second half or towards the end of Union. There's been some very impressive showings for them in spurts like that, so I know they got it in them. I think that we need to see them put together a complete game going into this postseason.
Yeah, I've definitely not seen it yet. But like let's go back to the Union game to start with them. The second half, and that's when they really had brought in this new quarterback, the freshman quarterback. And the thing is, the difference is with him versus Caden and the other guys that they've had, he's not scared to throw it. Even if it's a tight window, where Caden and them would kind of hold on to it and take the big loss, or just not get rid of the ball. And this kid's done a really good job at that. But as far as defensively, they've looked great all year. But as rolling into the Lehigh game, I think they got the big lead going into halftime, and they come out. They were pressing in the receivers in the first half of that game, and then come out. They got a big lead. They back off from them, and I mean that's just something you don't do to Lehigh. I mean, them guys will pick you apart underneath, and then once you start coming up, then they're going to burn you over the top. And Brandon's the kind of quarterback that he's not going to miss many of those over the top passes. He might miss one or two, but he's not going to miss many of them. And he started burning them, and that started snowballing on them. They're very lucky to come out of that one. So then me and Dog were up at Abingdon, and I picked my phone up and I look, and it's like 14-14 with John Battle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Dog, there's something going on here, I mean, it's just like once the offense gets rolling, then the defense seemed to be not, playing, but they pulled it together. But, I'd like to see them put that whole game together, because I think if they do, and when they start doing that, then they're going to be scary good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they have, if I'm not mistaken, Walker that we had on last week, great kid, great player. I think he's a junior, right?
He is. He's a junior.
Yeah.
They only have 6 seniors.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the young quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, definitely. Like looking forward to next year. I mean, I know that they're not looking past what they got coming up this year, but as a fan, bright future ahead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The big
So,
thing with what last year, in the playoffs, they had Graham on the ropes up there, and then that guy got that long run on him, and that kind of then we had a controversy call that. I mean, I really feel like we picked that first down up, but they called it, short and turned the ball over there. I mean, I think we get that first down, we probably going to win this game against Graham up there last year, and it just didn't happen. But I mean, so it was big coming into this, but we lost a lot on the line. That's what a lot of people don't really realize yet. I mean, the offensive line is very young, very, very young. And you've seen this year how at spurts, they've had their spurts, and that's why we're sitting here having this conversation of, the up and down. I mean, it all starts up front. We all know that. And I mean, these young guys, once they really get it in their mind and it starts clicking, and they start gelling together, then they are. They're going to be tough. I mean, you're talking about a right out of 60-man roster, and you got 6 seniors on it. I mean, the future looks really bright.
Yeah. I know that Bristol Paper kind of highlighted Keegan a lot, the linebacker. So, have you seen? I guess you've got to watch him play. How good is he?
Oh, he's tough, man. I mean, they're very, very physical. I'll be honest with you. Any team that has played them or is going to play them, they bring it, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably one of the most physical teams defensively me and Kermit's even talked about this. Me and Grant, and other guys. I mean, they're probably one of the most physical teams you'll see play.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of like a staple of like Gate City. I feel like that program. You just know that no matter what, like talent wise, what you might have, you're always going to be physical. Like that's something I feel like in their program you have to have. This game at Y Central, I think they will. I think they will win. I'm still looking for that complete game. They could get it this week. We'll see. I have Wise kind of playing decent at home, maybe surprising them a little bit, but I still have Gate City winning 34-24.
This is a game that kind of scares me because Gate City's typically they're kind of like Union when they go to Wise Central. They don't play well there. If you'll notice the Union games there, they don't play well against Central at Central. And Gate City's kind of the same way. They do not play good there. Normally, I mean, they kind of struggle. So this one does have me a little worried, but I'm going to go with my boys. They need to win out. I mean, they need to win this one, and they need to pull the big upset next week against Ridgeview. So I'm going to take this one, man. I'm going to go 35 to 35-21.
I think that that next week's game is going to be very interesting too between them and Ridgeview. I think that would be a good kind of test to see going into the playoffs. Okay, are we ready? So we'll go to this next one, and I think that this game, I think we both probably are going to pick the same, but it's worth talking about. John Marshall 2-7 at Virginia High 5-3. They don't have a line for this one, but this is the two schools that played in the state championship game last year in basketball. But John Marshall, everybody knows they're a powerhouse in basketball, nationally recognized. I mean, they are. Yeah, they are who they are. They're great. But now, football-wise, they've not been good in a long while. And I personally think right now that Virginia High might be the hottest team in Southwest Virginia. I mean, they found it, man. They found the groove. They're playing great all around. That win against Lebanon was a good win the other day. They beat up on Tazewell pretty bad, but I mean, they've just been really hot as of recent. Coach Derek Patterson got his 50th win in that one, so that was a big moment for him. Burks, the running back, Keyshawn Smith, the receiver, both had fantastic games. I think Burks, if I'm not mistaken, he might be maybe next week or coming up. We're going to have them on. I think I've already talked to him, but I'd like to get Keyshawn on as well. But yeah, I mean, you was at the game, so you got to see them in person Saturday, Aaron. What do you think?
Well, Virginia High, man, they're Saturday they were just crisp everywhere. And I think a lot of their issues has been in the past year or two is just being disciplined, keeping it together, when things ain't going your way. I saw them in Union last year. They were playing Union tough, and then, Union got one over the top of them, and then they started pointing fingers and stuff, and they just started falling apart within. But when they don't do that, and the way they played Saturday, they're going to be a team that nobody wants to see come playoff time. I mean, they probably have athlete to athlete. They probably are the most athletic team in Region D, and their speed is unbelievable, man. And as far as their defensive backfield goes, probably the best. And that's another thing for the guy we were talking about from Lebanon, having that kind of game against this type of secondary speaks volume as well. But I mean, they look good, man. Both sides of the ball, they just went out and they were physical. The big thing was they were just more physical than Lebanon was in this game and got after them.
Yeah, I think that I would love to have Coach Patterson on here too. I mean, it seems like he's doing a great job over there.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to put, and I don't know how the paper does it as far as for Coach of the Year. I don't know if they do a separate single A and double A or whatever. But if I was to put like my top three, I would have like Patterson up there, as well as I'd have Coach Akers from Holston. And who's the other one? I had another one that I was going to put up there. I mean, you gotta have Gary up there too. I mean, even though they got all the talent, but I mean, regardless, I can't think of the other one that I had up there. But those two for sure. Like, I think that what they've done with their programs this year, and Coach Patterson had the talent, and I would say that they probably started the opposite of Holston. Holston kind of started everybody doubting them. Now they believe. I think everybody was on Virginia High to beginning. At least for me, I was. And then I kind of got disappointed a little bit. I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe the hype isn't there. And I think
they had the
kind
injury
of
bug,
turned it around. Yeah, and I think they lost. I think they lost Keyshawn for a little bit, or one of the receivers there for a minute.
Well, see, in the Graham game, 3 of their big dogs were out.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Well,
right.
two of them was out to start the game, and then Keyshawn, he got hurt like in the first quarter of the game,
Yeah, it was early
and then
on, wasn't it?
they still played them that tough. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, it could have been a way different game, maybe, if they had all of them there. So,
yeah, and they might get a chance to figure it out.
other than
they cross paths again. You know, yeah, I have Virginia High in this one, 42-18. This ain't basketball season.
it's not basketball, and John Marshall, they have a lot of D1 athletes up there, but too bad they're on that hard court. And they ain't doing as much recruiting in football as they are basketball. So, I'm going with the shutout in this one. I'm going 48-0, Virginia High.
That's a good score. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know anything about Jordan Marshall other than I think the paper had it. They haven't been in the playoffs. I think since '92.
They're 2
Maybe.
wins this year so far.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, the athletes
and
are.
Most of the teams has averaged 40-some points on them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I think we're both pretty good on the predictions there. Thomas Walker 5-3 at Twin Springs 4-4. They don't have a line for this one, but Thomas Walker is coming off that loss to Eastside, but I think overall is having a pretty good season. Twin Springs, I think we've talked about it. You guys have talked about it. They have been hit with the injury bug bad, and I mean it's been. I think was it you guys or I think it was you guys that had mentioned, or it might have been on another podcast that they've had like 5 different quarterbacks this year.
Oh yeah, they have.
That's insane.
Yeah, and at one point in time, they were rolling into a game with only like 6 kids or 7 kids that had any type of playing time, and they were playing different positions at that point. Trying to fill roles, and I think Keith's done a really good job of finding kids to fit places. Moving kids around, and I think the kids has done a good job by doing that. But I mean, it's just tough when you're that small school, not that many kids and everything. And it just makes it hard. But I mean, I've loved their fight that they've shown for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that just comes straight down from the top. I mean, Keith would never say it because he's, he ain't going to brag on himself or anything like that. But I think it does come down from the top down. I think he's a great leader for them.
I remember preseason, I was aggravating Keith. I sent him a message, and I'm like 7-3, baby, and coach of the year. And he was, Ben Keith, he texts me back. He goes, "If we go 7-3, I'm gonna have a parade through the whole Scott County."
Yeah.
And look at it now. I mean, if they don't lose their quarterback, they don't lose some of these other players. I mean, that could have very well happened.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that. I mean, you look at years past. I mean, even prior to last season, they had lost some big weapons, and then everybody was doubting them. And then look at what they did last year. And I think, like you said, before the injuries, the quarterback, Clay Ross, I think was his name, if I'm not mistaken, was having a great year. I think he had a huge game like the week prior to him getting hurt. And yeah, you have to think they're 4-4. You have to think. I mean, I don't know the schedule off the top of my head, but there's probably 1 or 2 games there, or the Castlewood game for one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they win that game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few games they could have swung there, and we could be looking at something a lot different. And the irony, I don't say irony, but the thing is that he could win Coach of the Year. Honestly, if he gets in the playoffs with a team that is barely able to put enough players out there because of injuries and stuff, I mean, I think that warrants maybe some consideration for a Coach of the Year. I mean, I know you're not probably going to state or anything like what some of these other coaches might be, but I think that people don't recognize the struggle that some of these small schools go with or go through, trying to keep numbers and then just trying to keep those players conditioned and healthy. Because if you have one of them go down, it's so much more detrimental than when you have a team of 40 or 50 players.
Well, imagine it like this. I mean, here they are. They have all these kids hurt and out. And then you're going and playing, and we got people playing different positions. But think about this. They're almost still 1 player, 2 players getting hurt, not having enough to field team, and maybe their whole season being canceled for the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how close it's been for them. And you take a team like that and to still do what they've done, and come together the way they have and stuff. I mean, it's not just Keith. I mean, it's just a hats off to the community there, supporting these kids and pushing them and letting them know they still believe in them no matter what. And the kids themselves, for buying into what Keith and them are selling to them and stuff.
Yeah, and it would be very easy to check out if you was a player
Oh,
going
yeah,
through all of
absolutely.
that. You start to feel like, why are these things happening? You just start getting real down on yourself. But you look at even when everybody was going through the struggles with the hurricane, stuff like that. The team, the community, Coach Warner. The players were out there helping serve meals to people. And
Yeah.
so they didn't check out at all. They stay committed to what he's trying to do there and what that coaching staff is doing. So yeah, definitely props to them, the players, the community, the coaches. Now they did come. They're coming off a win. They beat Hancock County last week, and I know Hancock County, hasn't been the best this year, but a win's a win. And the Bristol paper actually called this game with Thomas Walker and Twin Springs a playoff eliminator game in Region 1D. So there is some playoff implications.
Yeah, I think right now, the way I think Twin Springs has now fell to ninth. So they're right on the edge of it. And I think Thomas Walker may be 8th or they may be 10th. So, the winner of this is, going to be huge leading into the last week of it,
Oh, yeah, for sure. And
more than likely the loser of this game is going to definitely be canceled out. And then the other will probably have to wait to the end of the night and do the points themselves to know whether they're in or not.
Yeah, and you still got teams, scratching that are below that, like Patrick Henry, that, we'll see what happens there as well. But for this game, I have Thomas Walker winning. I don't think, as like last week, I don't think they're on East Side's level yet, but I do think they've been playing well this year. They've looked good in some moments, even playing against Lehigh. I have them winning this one 28-16.
Well, we had Coach Warner on last year right after this game, and they went down there and set a Twin Springs school record for the most points scored and stuff. And, he really hated that. I don't know if you saw that episode. We kept, trying to push the fire on him a little bit, get him going. But, he hated that with Tanner and them. They're real good buddies and everything, him and Tanner. But I think they remember that, down there at Thomas Walker, and so this one's going to be at Twin Springs, and they're going to roll in there and try to get some revenge on it, and everything. And I'd like to see Twin Springs pull it off, but I don't. At this point, I think I've got Thomas Walker 20-12.
I forgot all about that game last year, but yeah, you're right. That was a pretty lopsided victory. All right, we got Eastern Montgomery 0-8 at Twin Valley 1-7. We don't have a line for this one, but now this is the homecoming for Twin Valley. Isaac Manis and Braden White for Twin Valley. I think they could be a big factor in this game. Isaac's already had a few games where he's kind of tallied up the rushing yards. He's been a force to be reckoned with there with them. And Braden, I helped coach him when he was in Little League. Great football mind. Comes from a great football family. All of them are super knowledgeable. His brother Dalton, his dad Ryan. Eastmont has only scored 38 points all season. So I'll just make this one quick. I have Coach Kruger and the Panthers having a sweet homecoming. I think they're going to get their second win of the year, beating Eastmont 28-18.
Yeah, I'm not much. I don't know much about Eastmont or nothing like that, but I'm gonna follow you in there. Don't sound like they are able to score many points, so I'm gonna go with a score of 35 to 6.
A solid score from a Twin Valley alum. I hope they come out on top this week.
Since you're an alum, did you like the purple?
I'm kind of like Jay Moore. I agree with him. I think that in basketball and in football, if it was done more like Kansas State, I probably wouldn't, hate it too much. Our senior year, our uniforms, the white wasn't that bad. It kind of looked like a Northwestern, the Wildcats, or I can't remember what Northwestern is.
I loved them. That's the only reason I asked. I thought they looked good. So
yeah, it kind of looked like them a lot my senior year. The purple though was like where it's just such a in your face purple. When you would sweat, it would almost turn like, I don't know how it looks like from from looking up down. It almost kind of looks like a dark navy blue. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But now we had different helmets and everything. Our helmets were just like that flat purple paint with no logo at all. So I would have personally liked to go with the silver and a touch of purple, like Kansas State. But yeah. I mean, it is what it is. They definitely didn't want to put any of that purple in the new school. So I guess you could say that they got the black part of it since it's black and gold. But yeah, going to another Buchanan County school, Hurley's 1-7. They're at Castlewood 1-7. Hurley is the minus 8.5 point favorite in this one, according to the sports book. Hurley's coming off of a loss last week against Tulsa, West Virginia. Another great podcast, or if you want to call it more of a radio talk show, called After the Whistle. Two former coaches that I had in high school, Coach Tommy Krieger from Twin Valley, Coach Brian Moore, who's the varsity basketball head coach at Richlands right now. They run that podcast over at Bellasino's in Grundy. And I watched their show as well today. And evidently, they said, Hurley went over to Tulsa, West Virginia, and there was a lot of flags. And normally I'm kind of, I don't get into the whole referee talk a whole lot. But they said they had 9 straight penalties in that game at one point on Hurley. And I think that might be a little too far out there. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't there. But with that being said, Kanan Justice, Dylan Lester, and Josh Duty still had great games there. They all 3 scored touchdown. And Landon Adkins has been a force to be reckoned with on Hurley's defense. He won Bellasino's Player of the Week. He's recognized in the Bristol paper being one of the best defensive players in the region. So I think that's big for them. I'm really interested in seeing Landon, being how he is on defense against Brady Houchins, the quarterback for Castlewood. He's been their big star player this year. I think that's the matchup to watch. But yeah, give me Hurley. I'm going to go 20-16. I do think that Coach Chisholm and Coach Deal are both great young. Well, I won't say Coach Chisholm's a young coach. He's been around the game for a minute, but new coaches in their program. So
yeah, the only game that I've really watched Hurley play this year is the one that we went to when they played Holston, and Holston just come out and it was looking like it was going to be a huge runaway. And next thing you know, at the end of the day, after we'd left, to go to Grundy, then I see the final score and I'm like, well, they actually put up a little bit better fight than what it looked like they were going to. And, Castlewood struggled. They've struggled a lot too. And this is, I think this is a coin flip game. And I'm going to go with a close one here. I think it's going to be a failed 2-point conversion somewhere. That's going to be the difference. So, I'm just going to throw a crazy score out there, like 26-24 or something like that. And I'm going to take Hurley in this one as well.
Yeah, and worth mentioning, Castlewood did play a close game against Burton last week, and Burton's a team that has been battle tested. So I know it's kind of hard to look at other games to judge these games, but I think we can look at the way they played Burton and say that Castlewood is improving. And I think
they are. They're definitely improving.
If they can just keep it going and keep this group going into next year, I think that'll be big. We got Grundy, and for whatever reason, I didn't write down the record. I think I want to say they're 5-3 or 4-4. I can't remember what the record is, but I know that they're if I remember right, they're right outside the top 5 right now in Region 1D standings. I think they might be around 6, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to Tulsa, West Virginia this week, and Tulsa's 6-2, and that's a team, like I said, that Hurley played last week. Greene's coming off a lopsided win against Marion, and that was a game that I thought that could have been a trap game for Grundy, just because Marion, they are 0-8 or whatever they are, but they had played Graham good for a quarter or two. They had played Tazewell good for a few quarters. I mean, they have had moments this year to where they've shown a little bit of life. And this game was close last year between Grundy and Marion. So for Grundy to come out, and from the first snap, Trey Taylor ran a touchdown. I can't remember how many yards, but they scored on the first play. And, it was the whole game. They had success. So Grundy is really, I think, coming into who they're going to be going into the playoff time. And they're definitely a team that nobody wants to draw, I don't think. With Logan Lester, Trey Taylor, Carson Deal, all those guys, great backfield. The line's playing well. The defense is playing better. They're going to go to Tulsa, and I think the refs, if that's the case, if they are a little bit rough over there, I think it could affect, a little bit. But here's the thing: it's just like UFC, or if you watch boxing or whatever. The old saying is, "Don't leave it in the judge's hands." Well, I don't think Grundy's going to leave it in the refs' hands come Friday night. I have them winning 42-28. I think they go over there and, they're just, I don't know, they're playing very physical ball right now. I think they're going to welcome that West Virginia atmosphere.
Yeah, so I picked Grundy also on our podcast, but I don't know much about the other school, but we did watch the Grundy Honaker game, and me and Kermit left there that day, and I was like, dog, this team, what the people don't realize is they're not won many games, but look who they've lost to. I mean, their schedule had been brutal coming up to that. I mean, and I was very, very impressed with what I seen with Grundy and how physical they was. And when it comes to just pounding the ball and running it, I mean, they're one of the best out there at this. And I think they control the game, control the clock with this run game. And I think they get the win. I'm going to go 35-12.
Good score. Yeah, I think that, and after the whistle today, they actually have them as being maybe a team to go to the region championship. And I think maybe depending on matchups, I mean, that's what it's going to be. This postseason is going to be who you match up with and if your style is kind of favorable, because besides, I think Rye Cove definitely, we can say is the number one. But even last week you look at it and, depending on the night, you could really see something happen.
Yeah. And you look at that game, and right now, Chilhowie's on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
They're not even in right yet. And to be honest with you, there's quite a bit that's got to happen for them to even get in. Chilhowie.
Yeah. And this week is a big one.
And here you go to a 1 point. I mean, and Chilhowee went for the win instead of trying to play for overtime in that game. They went for 2 and didn't get it. So,
yep. And which we have Chilhowee coming up here soon, but definitely, I watched the probably the last 6 or 7 minutes of that on NFHS, and gosh, that was a wild game. I bet you the crowd was definitely rowdy that night. It was great. We got Lehigh 4-4 at John Battle 0-8. Lee is a 27.5 point favorite in this one. As he's been dubbed now, Air Pendergraph, I guess is what everybody's calling him. He had a great game last week against Y Central. He threw for 410 yards, had 7 touchdowns. And Lee pretty much, according to the paper, guaranteed themselves a playoff spot after last week, is what the paper had said. And which I think they'll, which I'll get into the prediction here in a second, but I think this week they should do fine too. But, I will say, John Battle did have, that first half or first quarter or so against Gate City that, you can say that is a positive for them. A team that's struggling, that's a positive they can work on. I just don't think that it's going to come this week. I think that we could see another 400-yard passing game from Brennan. And yeah, that offense right now is just electric, and they're in rhythm, they're in sync, they got confidence. So I have them winning 48-16.
Yeah, Lehigh's a team that we kind of was big on them to start of the season, and they kind of let us down for a while. But I think the Ryco game and them going into that game, and they probably outplayed Ryco in that game. Should have came away with that win. But I think that game, even though they lost it and it was close, was a big confidence builder for them. And then turn around the very next week and then come back on Gate City the way they did, that boosted them again. Then the following week really showed out at Burton. And so they've been gaining momentum going into this. And I think they're going to be around a 7 they actually could, depending on how this plays out, outpointing Gate City, even at that, and coming in at like a 5 or 6 seed, But, man, I think they're starting to really gel together at the right moment. You see teams kind of the way I feel about Rycove. They started out on top, and there's only usually one way for them kind of teams to go, and that's down. You start slowly momentum. I'd rather have that kind of, and I think Lehigh has that. And I got Lehigh winning this one 42-14.
And I'll say, I mean, I think that, like you said, I think they might be seated a little higher, but if they do draw Graham, I'm not saying they'll beat Graham, and we just point that out. But Lebanon's offense with their passing game gave Graham some trouble, and so we'll see how it goes. I think I would definitely still have Graham as a prediction to win, just because they've been the top dogs, and there's other reasons that go into that. But I do think that with a passing attack like they have at Lee, there's not a game that they truly are out of. I don't think. I think that their style definitely probably you wouldn't want the matchup against Union with their style, but I think that they definitely could make a game of it. I mean, any opponent they play.
Yeah, I mean, think about Pendergraft's brother, man. He's really coming on.
Oh yeah, freshman
He's strong,
too.
He's really coming on and started making bigger plays. And early, dude, there's not going to be anybody on any field that he's on that's going to be faster than that youngin is. I mean, he is just absolutely a burner.
Yeah,
and
Connor, he's been playing great.
Dude.
Yeah, and I think
the
that
only thing that with Graham and what I saw, and I think the same thing with Graham, Lebanon, and it will be the same in this matchup with Graham and Lee if they do face each other in the playoffs. Is their lines is not exactly very, very strong, and Hill, man, just absolutely is a goddamn beast.
Oh yeah,
and that,
definitely.
And I think you putting pressure on them, that would be the only thing that I could really throw anything in there that would be a big difference maker in that matchup is just the pressure on the quarterback. And if they can make those plays, and I mean, Lebanon's quarterback, Reese, he done a good job standing there. He took a beating, man, and just absolutely delivered in that game. I mean, Pendergraft would have to be that way too. He's gonna take some hits.
Yeah, there's probably not a team that Graham plays this year that's not like the quarterback's going to have to deal with getting hit. That's just the type of front seven they got, or front 7, 8, whatever they got. Next one we got Rye Cove 8-0 at J.I. Burton 2-6. We don't have a line for this one, but Rye Cove is coming off of maybe their biggest challenge this year as far as in-game adversity, what they had to go through last week. They barely came out of the win against Chilhowie, and it was at home. But with that being said, they're still undefeated, and their regular season winning streak now dates back to last year of 15 games. Of course, that doesn't count the playoffs last year, but they've been playing great. I mean, I don't think we have to sit here and really talk about the season they've had. I think everybody that knows high school football that would be listening to this knows how good they've been this year.
Yeah,
but I think that game last week was a big eye opener. I think for them and for everybody, even all the other teams that might have to play them, they're like, okay, they're not invincible. On the right night, you just never know what could happen. And I think that Coach Sturgill, I think put together a great game plan for Rachel Howie. But I think that they're going to be foaming at the mouth to get on this one. And I know Burton, isn't the Burton of old. And I think that unfortunately for them, Ryko's going to be ready to get that bad taste out of their mouth. I have Ryko winning 52-12.
Yeah, Burton is a much improved team from what they were last year, even though the record may not 100% show that. But they're much improved. But Ryko's just going to be way too much for them, and I got Ryko probably getting into the 60 mark again. And I'm going to go at least 56-12.
I think that's a good score. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game for Ryko in this one. Got Honaker 5-3 at Northwood 3-5. Don't have a line for this one, but Honaker has slowly became the king of the Hogo. I think they just joined last year, but so far the Tigers have won 8 straight Hogo district games, and if you count the playoffs last year, they've won 12 straight Hogo games. So that's pretty remarkable. I think people don't. And I'll say myself, didn't realize that because I looked at the beginning of the year. They lost a few games, and you start to wonder, okay, are they going to pick it up and stuff of that nature? But they're still having a very impressive season. Last week, Peyton and Avery Music had a historical night. That was very important in their win against Patrick Henry, and that was a big win for them. Very big, I think. But both brothers broke school records. Peyton broke the single game passing record, which he previously held. He broke it this time with 470 yards. Avery broke the single game receiving record with 265 yards. Also broke the single game receiving touchdown record with 5 touchdowns. And all of a sudden here Honaker is, and I think they're starting to play some of their best ball at the right time. And something that I had wrote down and I wanted to mention, and I know me and Jay Moore have talked about it, and I'm sure that you all probably have as well. The biggest weakness is a big glaring weakness for Honaker up to this point was up front, in the trenches, dealing with teams that were very run heavy and that ran behind a big line, like say, Rye Cove. With that being said, I was very impressed with Honaker, the way they handled that. I think there was some injuries, I think from what I heard on Patrick Henry's side, I think with the quarterback. But nevertheless, I think Barrett was back this game. And even if he wasn't, they have a huge line even outside of Barrett. So for Honaker to finally be able to deal with that, I'm not going to say they stopped him completely. They didn't shut him down, but they did enough to where that offense can do their thing and they can pull ahead. And, kudos to Aaron Lowe. I think that's the D coordinator over here at Honaker. I saw a lot of good blitz schemes and stuff. They were always sending people in there. They were not going to let Patrick Henry run up the middle or try their best to, throw enough chaos in there to, like a car crash, they say.
Yeah.
Throw enough in the middle there to try to make them bounce it outside. So I've been very impressed with them. I think going forward, again, playoff-wise, it would depend on the matchup. I think they have shown, though, that, okay, we can play enough against these running teams to where we have a shot. So much improved defense, much improved all around, really. I mean, you look everywhere. I know Peyton and Avery's always been great. They've been great all year, but it seems like they're really gelling together, the whole offense.
Yeah, Northwood's also a team that has exceeded the preseason expectations. A lot of people did not expect them to, even win a game more than likely. And, they've put off some pretty impressive wins this year, so,
Yeah,
I
think you're right.
might be an upset. You never know.
Well, it is at Northwood, and whenever I played, that was always one of my favorite places to play at. I don't know what it is or it's awful. It's just the way that the field just feels kind of boxed in a way. They really do have a nice field, nice like stadium there. But now I'm going with Honaker. I think right now, like I said, I think they're finding their groove. I have them winning 42-18.
Come on, Cameron. You
You
gotta
know, I
give the
mean,
Northwood boys a little more credit than this.
I do, but I'm also about to sub tomorrow. I'm getting ready to walk into Honaker Elementary. Probably within the next 12 or so hours. So I can't walk in there, thinking that, man, like who'd you pick? Well, I thought Northwood might get y'all. I can't do that. Might get
I
kicked
get
out of that
you,
school.
man. And I'm not going Northwood in this one either, but I'm gonna give Northwood a little more prop. I think Homeacre does win this one. But I think Northwood is going to actually surprise some people and play it a lot tougher than just because of the running game. And I mean, they got a pretty decent running game, and there's some size on that line and stuff too. And I'm going to take it 35-26.
That'd be a real close one. Well, and it could happen because Honecker could be looking ahead to Royal Retreat next week because that's going to be a huge game. All right, so this is a big one we've talked about. With Andrew and Colin, we got Marion 0-8 at Richlands 1-7, and Richlands is the 13.5-point favorite actually according to Sportsbook. Now I say a big game. It's big for the programs. An opportunity to get a second win, or even Marion getting their first win of the year. But Richmond's coming off that win against Galax last week. Just mentally, I think that was great for them. Richmond's had 8 different players catch passes last week, and T.J. Lawson, which Andrew mentioned, I think, or one of them mentioned, another running back they have. He had 2 touchdowns last week, so great game for him. They scored 42 points last week, and to think about what they've done throughout the season, how the offense just couldn't really click, and to see them put 42 up there, that's big for me. Now I think 13.5, I think, is a pretty big line for them and Marion. I think this could be a close game, and I've mentioned with Marion having moments this year of showing some good improvement against some good teams. I'm gonna have Richlands. I can't have these boys on here and hearing all this great talk. They got me motivated. I'm going with them to win this one, 22-18.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. Richlands is definitely going to win this game. You said it was 13.5-point favorite. They're going to cover
according
that.
to the sports book, yeah.
They're going to cover that plus 21. They're going to be right there. I'm going to give them a 21-point favorite to win this game. Marion's what I've saw them. They've struggled with passing teams, and I think that's going to be the difference. And I got them winning. Give me the Tornadoes. 35-14.
Yeah, Graham, 35.5-point favorite against Tazewell. You about tricked me up last week during y'all's podcast. I listened, I didn't know much about Pulaski County either. And I about fell into that trap. I was like, man, Pulaski County, they might not be that bad. I think I still had Graham winning last week, but I think I said it was going to be close, and it wasn't close at all.
No. But, I mean, did you watch any of that game?
I didn't know. I ain't going to watch it, just seeing the score.
I mean, their offense didn't put many of them points up. It was defense and special teams that scored the most of these points. But now, Pulaski County used to be, their powerhouse team. They were. You didn't want to play Pulaski County.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're 3A, 4A, something like that.
I think so. Might be. 3A. I think so.
And I was trying to throw the Blacksburg thing in there, trying to trick Grant and
you tricked me.
And I actually wasn't really going to pick Pulaski County to win that game, but they kind of held me to it, But I was trying to trick them. It didn't work.
Yeah, I think it got me instead. I still picked Graham, but I at least did say it was going to be close. But Graham, their quarterback, Dalton Roberts, he did throw for 2 touchdowns last week. I think that's important to note because I'm sure K-Dog's told you a little bit too. Passing game hasn't really been, I think, the strong suit for Graham this year. I think the kid's got talent. We saw him throw one at Lebanon, probably 40, 50 yards on the sideline, a dot, and the receiver dropped it. I think he's got talent, but for whatever reason, at times this year he's kind of struggled, and it seems to be a moment of weakness for him. But that front seven for Graham is, in my opinion, the best in the state. Maybe front eight, whatever they play out there. You got Amari Hill that you mentioned. You got Jazier Williams. I think Williamson. He's a sophomore, I believe, and getting D1 looks already. They got a few different guys there. There's going to be, like I said, they're great on that side of the ball. Tazewell, on the other hand, I think where they have been underwhelming, considering the talent they brought back, and maybe not, at least not playing up to what I thought they would play. It is worth mentioning Carter Creasy, the quarterback for Tazewell. They did a great write-up on him this week for the Bristol paper. And, we mentioned it last week. He is now the VHSL passing completion leader in the state ever, all time. But not only that, he also is third in Virginia career passing yards with 10,349. And he is just one of three players above that 10,000-yard mark. That's very impressive. He is second with total yards with 12,251. He's eighth in Virginia history in passing touchdowns with 97 and 10th in touchdowns responsible for with 122. So, I mean, that's history. I mean, it's right down the road. History being made, and regardless of how many times they throw or regardless of the competition they may have had to play it versus some of the other people in Virginia history, that's still special. I mean, I think that's just great to see.
Absolutely.
The crazy thing, Tassel, their athletic page told us last year, and I don't know, it may have changed after the season, but prior to last season, I don't think he even made an all-district team. Even having all
That's
that.
so surprising.
They've had so many good quarterbacks, I guess, in that district that it just didn't work out. I'm assuming he probably did get it, though, after last season, I would have hoped, especially the way Tassel played. But I think that line of 35.5 is pretty big. I mean, not saying it couldn't happen, but now I'm going with Graham in this one. I have it 28-12. Now, I could see, just like Lebanon and Toby had that thing going on against Graham where, they had that issue with that one particular receiver. The McDonald kid from Tazewell could be that for Tazewell, and him and Creasy, if they could get it going, just them two, could give them some trouble. But I got Graham.
Yeah, that McDonald kid, he's a big time player too. And the thing is, Creasy just ain't had the weapons that he had last year and stuff. And I don't know, it's like their line is huge, but then they give out so quick, or they don't play very well at the first, and then they're strong at the end. Or oh man, Graham too. I mean, we've talked a lot about. We feel like somewhere, man, Graham is they're going to get tripped up. I don't know whether it's going to be in this regular season or quickly in the playoffs, but somewhere they're going to get tripped up because they've not really, their offense is not produced enough for my liking. I still think Graham's going to probably get this win, but I think it's going to be really close, and I won't be surprised if Tazewell don't pull that upset this week, but I'm going to go Graham 20.
Yeah, and it might be good for Tazewell to be in the position of everybody, putting them down and them being the underdog opposed to where they have been at times this year, being the favorite and kind of underperforming. So maybe it'd be good for them mentally to go into that game with, people on them.
If I ain't mistaken, don't Tazewell need this game to keep?
Could be. I mean, I think that I don't know who they play, or they play Lebanon next week. So yeah, you could be looking at a situation where you could end up being 4-6.
Right now, they're eighth.
Yeah, so I mean, you lose this one and you don't pull off that Lebanon win,
but you also have a 2-8 Richlands that's probably going to end up finishing ninth. I mean, if they go 2-8, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd heard somebody say the other day that and there's some scenario to where if they had upset Graham, which I don't think they will, but if they had upset Graham and beat Marion, that they could sneak in the playoffs with the points they'd have from beating Graham.
Yeah, according to what I've got here on my notes that I've taken down, I think Tazewell's going to be in no matter any of the scenarios, but they could be the 8th seed at least.
Yeah, so could be playing Graham twice in the matter of like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. What I've got with the most likely scenarios, you're probably going to have Graham and Tazewell playing back to back, Gate City, Ridgeview playing back to back weeks.
That'd be wild. That's hard to do. I mean, you look at Honecker and Rural Retreat last year; they had to do that. But speaking of Rural Retreat, we'll get into this game, and we're about done here. We got Holston 7-1 at Rural Retreat 5-3. Holston's a 2.5-point favorite. Holston is coming off that win against Johnson County, which we talked about earlier with the kids or with Luke and the coach. They beat them 31-20. Colton Hess rushed for 90 and had 2 interceptions in that one. Coach Akers and that whole staff has done a great job this year. The kids have done a great job. And you can even just listen to Luke talk and listen to Coach talk. You can just tell that they're a very tight-knit group. The culture's good there. It's strong. As Coach mentioned, Rural Retreat's a team that they have lost a few games, but the teams they lost to are very good. Chaz Penwright last week had 3 touchdowns for them to 3 different receivers. They got talent. I think, and this is more just on the groove that Holston's in right now, especially after that Johnson County win. I think they're going to come away with this one. I have them winning 24-16, but I think it will be a very close one. And I hope, Luke said something about them maybe having the big head a little too much than he'd like. But I think once you get out there and you start, having those pads pop, I think mentally they're going to get right.
Yeah, I'm going to do Holston a favor here, because every time I've ever picked them, they've lost. So I'm going with Rural Retreat in this one. They can thank me later, but I'm going 35-21 Rural Retreat.
Heck yeah, that's going to be a good game. And that honestly, like, if I could go back, and I had these last 2 as like co-games of the week because of the implications and, just the talent on the field. But I actually probably would have had Holston Rural Retreat over this next one. But this next game is just important playoff-wise. And that's Patrick Henry 3-5 at Chilhowie 3-5. Chilhowie right now is minus 3.5-point favorites. And the loser of this game could miss the playoffs, according to the Bristol paper. So if the paper's right, which I'm sure that they probably are, this is a very important game for them. Patrick Henry's coming off that loss to Honecker last week. That was a big game. If they could have won it, I don't think this week would have been as stressful. But I think that you look at that game, and although Honecker did win, and it looked a lot worse than what it actually was, Patrick Henry was up. I think in the first half, at halftime they were up. They were up after the third quarter, going into the fourth. So they had moments. But you also look at Chilhowie. We already talked about it. They played great against Rye Cove. Could have easily come away with a win there. In that game against Rye Cove, they had, between the two teams, they had 79 points, scored 751 yards of total offense, and 7 touchdown passes between the two teams. So Asher Chapman and Sturgill, out there at Chilhowie, coach quarterback combo there. I think they've really got a good thing going with him and the way that they're game planning games for him. I think it could make for this game to be very close. Could come down to a single possession at the end. It's really going to be a test to see Patrick Henry, is there a mental letdown after the Honecker game? Because that was, that sucked, losing that one. And it really put you in a tough position. Can you get back up mentally to get prepared for this game? Because Chilhowie is going to be the reverse. They're going to come in this game, even after a loss, pumped up because of the way they played last week. They're probably re-energized just with the feeling of knowing that we just played with Rye Cove and possibly could have came away with a win there. And so this game is going to be huge, man. Coach Padgett over at Patrick Henry, I don't have any doubt in him, though. I think that he will get his team good to go. And Barrett coming back, and from what I'd heard, Stewart, the running back that played Week 1 against Virginia High, I think he's supposed to be coming back either this week or next week. So they're getting healthy at the right time. They just have to beat Chilhowie. They have to get into the playoffs, but I think they're getting their pieces back that could make them a dangerous team to play against. I have Patrick Henry 36-28.
Well, what I've got on the playoffs right now, and we'll talk a lot about the playoffs too when you guys come on with us this week coming up. Don't want to give too much away here. It's kind of be a surprise to everybody, but y'all are going to be joining us. But Chilhowie has to win out to even have a shot. They got to win this week. They got to win next week. There's no way that they get above an 8 seed, which means we're going to have a Rycove Chilhowie rematch in the first round, more than likely, if Chilhowie wins out. Man,
something.
Here we go.
Yep.
But yeah, so we are talking Chilhowie, Patrick Henry, right?
Yep.
Who are we talking about?
I took Patrick Henry 36-28, and they're traveling to Chilhowie in this one.
Man, this is
a tough one, man. It's so important too.
Both of them 4-6, really needing it. I mean, looks like they could both of them finish 4-6. Man, I'm gonna go with Patrick Henry in it. I'm gonna go with Patrick Henry. Let's go 21-18.
I think it's a good score. I think that, like I said, I think Patrick Henry is starting to get their pieces back at the right time. I think that if they do get in there, let's say they are an 8 seed, that's going to be a heck of a matchup between Rycove and Patrick Henry. If that ends up being the case, to see Barrett against the offensive line or line of scrimmage period with Patrick Henry against Rycove's line of scrimmage. Seeing I think it's the Lawson kid, I think is his name at Rycove, that big brute of I think he's like a sophomore, already getting all these college looks, huge kid. Him and Barrett going at each other. I mean, it's just a lot of good storylines in that game if that game ends up happening. Final game of the week, the game of the week. We got Abingdon 7-1 at Union 6-2. Union is a 9.5-point favorite according to the sportsbook. This is pretty much your Mountain 7 district championship. Abingdon's coming off of a 10-7 win against Ridgeview. Owen Barr was the player of the game in that one. He had 196 yards rushing. He was a guest last week on the show, him and Luke. Great kid. We really enjoyed that interview with them. Union, they're kind of ready to get these playoffs started, I feel like. They're getting in that playoff zone. You got Cam Bostic, Chandler. You know the names. You know the way they're going to play. They're nothing exotic, I guess you would say, with Union. You know they're going to come and try to hit you in the mouth and play a physical brand of football. I think Abingdon's somewhat kind of got in that groove, too, of where they're, kind of like a running team and trying to play good defense and keep it low scoring. This game is going to be, I feel like, a low scoring game.
Yep.
But I think you're going to have one of these playmakers, and I don't know what side it's going to be in. I mean, of course, I made a pick, but it could be Chandler, it could be Bostic, it could be Luke Honaker or Owen Barr. It could be somebody outside of all that could make a big play to really swing the game. But I have Union in a very physical one, especially with it being a Bullet Park. I think that helps Union. I have them winning 18-14.
Well, you surprised me on that one, Cameron. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm with you, though, on the closeness. I mean, last week, that's probably one of the most boringest games was them in Ridgeview. I mean, and a lot of people, like I've said on our podcast, I've never in my life seen a team have one possession in the second half of a ball game. And that's what exactly Ridgeview had. And they were driving the ball and fumbled it at the 5-yard line. And they were moving in to score, and they win that ball game. They score right there. They gonna win that ball game. And Abingdon, they know how to play keep away. They know how to play keep away, and so does Union. With Keith Chandler riding in behind him. But Keith, man, he's just so daggone strong, and with him, a lot of people don't realize his speed and they take wrong angles with him, because they're like, they see a big guy and they take the wrong angle and he blows by home. I honestly think that Union is going to make a statement in this game, and I've got Union 28-14.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that being the case. I think that Union's kind of, for whatever reason, had the big start of the year. Had some huge games against the Tennessee school and against Graham, and it's kind of like they've kind of gotten quiet as of recently, and it's only because of the teams they play. They play like Twin Springs, and they
It's
played.
because of Heather Williams, son.
Oh, that's what it was. It was Heather. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Now she would argue with it maybe, but
I wish she would.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see her thing this week.
Oh man, that's another conversation.
You take a 1 point game that Rocco just about loses in, and then here Union is starting to look really good, and they just had them on their thing, and I did like what she said. It's Keith Chandler's world. We're just living in it. We're going to see where she's at.
No, that's for sure. And for people that haven't watched it yet or listened to it, Tailgate Talk, Aaron and them had Keith on for an episode. I can't remember what week that was. It might have been before Graham, or was it?
Yeah, it was the week. It was no, I can't remember either, Cameron. To be honest,
I can't remember when.
Yeah,
it was after.
It was leading into the Graham game.
Okay, I knew it was after the Tennessee game because I remember Keith talking about it on there. So
yeah, it was in between the two.
So yeah, definitely. If you haven't watched that, go check that out. I know that the games, it's already happened, but still getting to hear Keith, and he seems like a great kid.
He's an awesome kid, man. A lot of people don't realize this is that kid is so good at football, but you should see him on a baseball field, man. His future is so bright on baseball, and I mean, more than likely, baseball is what he goes to college for, I think.
I had to get out there. I ain't got a chance to watch him. I've watched Graham. I've watched Ridgeview a little bit. I haven't got a chance to watch Union as much as I would like. So just on NFHS and stuff. But yeah, I definitely want to get out there and watch them come playoff time. Well, man, it was a long one. I appreciate you staying up here and doing this with me. Jamar, if you listen this far, buddy, we miss you. Hope everything's good. I thank Aaron for hopping on here. Very short notice, probably like 2-hour notice, and hopped on here and did a heck of a job. And I know you already kind of mentioned it, but like you said, I don't want to give away too much. But we are excited about this weekend coming up. So
yeah, man, that's too. We've talked a lot about it, and I think just for the visitors or the viewers right now, looking forward to next weekend, we are going to have Porch Talk on, and I think I'm putting a big playoff breakdown thing in here, so we will be, because it's going to come more to light after this week to really know what the scenario needs to be. But so looking forward to getting into that and really sitting down with you guys and breaking down this playoff thing and getting your all's take on it, our take, and just kind of try to break it down for them the best we can and get the right scenarios out there for the folks that's probably not really up on the points and how they work.
Yeah, definitely. And that'll be an episode as soon as it drops. We'll share it as well. But go and follow Tailgate Talk so you don't have to see it from us. Go see it, from them when they share it. And we're gonna have some good food that day too. I'm excited for that. So.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, make sure you talk to the manager up there and tell him that we need the wings back on the bar, okay?
I got you. Wings back on the bar. That sounds like a great idea to me.
Thanks for reaching out to me, man. I know it's kind of hard when you're used to one person, and you and Jamar does an awesome job, man, feeding off of each other. I know I'm not Jamar for you and everything, and
you did great.
Everything, but I do enjoy listening to you guys, man. We really appreciate what y'all are doing, and y'all doing an awesome job, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and I think that for me to have somebody come on, I know that, like you said, you used to doing it with one person as far as the interviews and stuff, but I know having you on that you would appreciate this experience of getting to talk to the players because I know how much you and K Dog and all of you guys over there care about the kids and the teams just as much as we do.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
glad you was able to experience that and get to speak to some of these kids. But yeah, man, I mean, y'all do a great job too. And one thing about you guys, something that I feel like me and Jamar have talked about that we like to maybe put in a little more is just the humor and the laughs. Man, you all have it. It just really is like three guys hanging around a table and cutting up and having a good time. And
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited. Me and Jamar both are excited this week to be a part of it. So
Yeah, we're excited to have you on, man.
well, guys, that concludes our episode. Again, appreciate everybody that made it to this point. Go and share. Go like Tailgate Talk. Watch their episode. Again, share this episode. Let's get it out there for everybody to see. And come Friday night, let's enjoy some ball games. Appreciate it, guys.